Have you ever locked eyes with someone and suddenly felt a chill run down your spine, realizing they weren't who you thought they were? Maybe it was a friend, a colleague, or even someone closer. Their words seemed warm, and their actions polished, but something was off beneath it all. And then you saw it. The mask slipped for just a moment, and the truth became clear. But here's the real twist. What happens when they realize that you know? Do they apologize? Reflect? Try to make things right? No. What they do is far more calculated and manipulative. They strategize, they scheme, and they work overtime to regain control of the narrative and, more importantly, of you. Today, we're diving into this. We'll break down the 9 precise tactics people use when their true colors are exposed. But before we dive into their playbook, here's something I'd like to ask of you. If you find this video helpful or insightful, take a moment to hit that like button. Why? When you engage, YouTube recognizes the value of this content and shares it with others who may also need these insights. It's a small action, but it has a ripple effect. By helping spread this message, you're contributing to a larger community of understanding and growth. And let's be honest for a moment. Every change and transformation starts with a single action. If you can't take that small step, then perhaps this journey isn't the right one for you. But if you're ready to grow, to learn, and to empower yourself and others, go ahead, like, subscribe, and share this video. Small actions lead to big shifts, and together, we can make a difference. Now, back to our topic. These 9 tactics aren't random. They're psychological warfare designed to confuse you, wear you down, and make you question what you've discovered. But don't worry, we're not just here to decode their methods. We're here to give you the tools to defend yourself. With the wisdom of Stoicism and the clarity of psychology, you'll learn how to counter every move with strength, dignity, and composure. Stay with me. This isn't just about seeing their tactics. It's about building your resilience and taking back control. So let's get started, and together, let's forge a mindset that no one can manipulate. Welcome to Victory Stoic. Number 1. The Mirage of Deception. Gaslighting. There's nothing more infuriating than knowing the truth, only to have someone try to rewrite it right in front of your eyes. Gaslighting is their weapon of choice. A manipulative art designed to make you question your reality, your sanity, and eventually your worth. They'll look you straight in the face and say things like, "That never happened. You're overreacting." Or the classic, "You're just imagining things." Picture this. You confront a coworker who took credit for your idea during a meeting. Instead of admitting it, they shrug and say, "You're remembering it wrong. I've always been working on that project." Suddenly, you're second-guessing yourself, doubting your memory, even though you know the truth. This is gaslighting at its finest. A psychological chess game designed to leave you disoriented. Gaslighting thrives in confusion, but the antidote is clarity. Anchor yourself in the facts. Write down what happened, keep screenshots, and document key events. Build a foundation of truth so solid that their lies crumble against it. And most importantly, trust your instincts. Their game only works if you allow yourself to doubt what you already know to be true. Here's the twist. They're not doing this because they're clever or skilled. They're doing it because they're scared. Scared of being exposed. Scared of losing control. Gaslighting? It's a desperate attempt to keep you under their thumb. How do you respond? Don't engage in their narrative. Don't try to convince them of what you know. The more you argue, the deeper they dig into their web of lies. Instead, hold your ground. Respond with composure, saying something like, "I know what I saw," and no amount of words will change that. Gaslighting is a fire meant to burn away your confidence, but when you stand firm, their flames sputter out. So let them twist, let them turn. You don't need to prove your reality to anyone unwilling to face the truth. You know what you know, and that is enough. Number 2. The Lament of the Victim. Playing the victim. When the mask slips and their true nature is exposed, some people don't fight back with aggression. They wield pity like a weapon. Suddenly, they're not the ones at fault. They're the misunderstood martyr in a grand tragedy of their own making. Playing the victim is their art form, designed to flip the script and make you feel like the villain. They'll hit you with lines like, "I've done so much for you, and this is how you repay me." Or the classic, "You don't understand how hard I've had it." It's an emotional ambush. Their goal? To drown you in guilt so you second-guess yourself, soften your stance, and maybe even apologize for daring to hold them accountable. Picture this. A close friend constantly borrows money from you, promising to pay it back next week, but never does. One day, you finally call them out. Instead of acknowledging their behavior, they respond with, "You know how much I'm struggling right now. I can't believe you'd bring this up when I'm going through so much." Suddenly, your frustration morphs into guilt. That's the power of their victim act. The truth is that their suffering is often exaggerated or weaponized to divert attention from their actions. But here's the Stoic reality. Pity is not a reason to excuse bad behavior. Their struggles, real or not, don't absolve them of responsibility. How do you counter this emotional chess move? First, recognize it for what it is: manipulation disguised as vulnerability. Don't let their tears, sighs, or dramatic proclamations derail your original concern. Stay calm, focused, and anchored to the facts. When they wail, "I've done so much for you," respond with steady resolve. "This isn't about what you've done for me. This is about the behavior we need to address." Don't escalate, but don't retreat either. Guilt only works if you accept it as valid. And remember, playing the victim is their way of avoiding accountability, not a reflection of your actions or integrity. Hold your ground, not out of cruelty, but out of respect for yourself. Because true strength lies in compassion tempered with boundaries, and knowing when someone's cry for help is just a cry to escape the truth. Number 3. The Spear of Slander. Smear campaigns. When the truth comes out and their facade begins to crumble, some people don't just defend, they attack. But not directly, no. Instead, they launch a smear campaign, carefully weaving rumors and whispers to paint you as the villain. Their goal? To discredit you before you even have a chance to speak, making others doubt your integrity and, ultimately, side with them. It starts subtly. A casual comment here, an insinuation there. They'll say things like, "I just don't know if you can trust them," or, "They've changed, haven't they?" Suddenly, people in your circle begin looking at you differently, questioning your motives without knowing the full story. Picture this. You've called out a colleague for taking credit for your work. Rather than owning up, they quietly begin planting seeds of doubt among your team. "I think they're just insecure," they whisper. Or, "I've noticed they've been really difficult to work with lately." Soon, you're defending your character against accusations you didn't even know existed. This strategy is cunning because it shifts the battlefield to a place where you can't easily fight back. They're not confronting you. They're poisoning the minds of others, turning allies into skeptics. How do you respond? First, resist the urge to fight fire with fire. Engaging in their game of slander only pulls you down to their level. Instead, rise above it with actions, not words. Consistently act with integrity and professionalism. Over time, your character will shine through, and their lies will crumble under the weight of truth. Second, lean on trusted allies. Share your side of the story with people you genuinely trust, not to counterattack, but to ensure they see the situation. People of value will recognize the difference between gossip and authenticity. And finally, practice the Stoic wisdom of detachment. As Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Focus on what you can control: your actions, your responses, and your values. Let them swing their Spear of Slander. Over time, the very weapon they use against you will reflect on them, revealing their true character to everyone. Remember, a smear campaign isn't a reflection of who you are. It's a testament to their fear of being exposed. Stay grounded, stay honorable, and let your integrity speak louder than their whispers. Number 4. The Shadow of Intimidation. Intimidation. When their secrets are at risk of exposure, some people resort to intimidation as their weapon of choice. It's not subtle, it's direct, brazen, and meant to instill fear, paralyze you into silence, and reassert control. Intimidation is their way of saying, "Stay in your place, or there will be consequences." Imagine this. You discover your neighbor has been dumping trash in your yard, and when you confront them, their friendly facade drops. "You'd better not make a big deal out of this," they warn, "or I'll make sure the HOA knows about that late payment you made last month." Suddenly, the issue isn't their wrongdoing, it's your fear of retaliation. Or think about the workplace. A manager who realizes you've uncovered their unethical practices might lean in and say, "You know, jobs in this industry are hard to come by. You wouldn't want to make a mistake that jeopardizes yours." Their message is clear: back down or face the fallout. In American culture, intimidation shows up in subtle and not so subtle ways. From the PTA mom who suggests you keep quiet about her child's behavior to the coworker who implies they have connections to upper management, it's all about creating a power dynamic where they feel untouchable. And here's the kicker: it works if you let it. But Stoic wisdom teaches us that fear is often an illusion, magnified by our perception. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Intimidation loses its grip the moment you refuse to be ruled by fear. So how do you stand up to it? First, recognize intimidation for what it is: a tactic born out of their insecurity, not your inadequacy. Someone who resorts to threats is afraid of being exposed, which means the real power lies with you. Second, set clear boundaries. If a coworker uses veiled threats, respond with calm confidence: "I don't think that's appropriate. Let's keep this conversation professional." Or if a neighbor tries to strong-arm you, counter with, "I prefer we handle this through the proper channels." By asserting your boundaries, you shift the balance of power back to yourself. And most importantly, seek support. In the workplace, document every interaction and loop in HR if necessary. In personal situations, confide in trusted friends or family who can back you up. The point is that you don't have to face intimidation alone. Remember, intimidation is a shadow. It looms large but has no real substance. The more you step into your confidence, the smaller their shadow becomes. And when they realize their threats no longer work, they'll have no choice but to retreat. Let their bluster fade, while you stand strong in your truth and integrity. Number 5. The Rainstorm of Gifts. Love bombing. When someone realizes you've seen through their facade, they often switch tactics, going from threatening to overwhelmingly kind. Suddenly, they're showering you with gifts, compliments, or gestures of goodwill, leaving you wondering if you were wrong about them all along. This is love bombing at its finest, a calculated attempt to cloud your judgment and reel you back in. Picture this. You confront a friend for consistently undermining you in conversations. The next day, they show up at your door with coffee, your favorite snacks, and an apology note so heartfelt you almost feel guilty for doubting them. Or consider a workplace scenario. After you raise concerns about a coworker's unethical behavior, they suddenly start praising your work in team meetings, offering to help with your tasks, or even buying lunch for the whole team. It feels nice, but also a little too convenient. Love bombing works because it preys on your desire to believe the best in people. By overwhelming you with kindness, They create a whirlwind of confusion. Maybe they aren't so bad, you think. Maybe I overreacted. But here's the Stoic truth: genuine change is measured over time, not in a flood of sudden gestures. As Marcus Aurelius advised, judge each thing as it is, not as it appears. A sudden outpouring of affection doesn't erase previous patterns of behavior. Love bombing is not about remorse. It's about regaining control. How do you handle it? First, observe. Accept the coffee or compliments if you want, but don't let them distract you. Watch their behavior over the long term. Are these acts of kindness consistent, or do they fade once you softened your stance? Second, stay grounded in your original concerns. Why did you begin questioning this person in the first place? Write it down if you must. When their gifts make you doubt yourself, revisit your reasons. Remind yourself that a bouquet of roses doesn't erase betrayal, and a fancy lunch doesn't undo dishonesty. Lastly, maintain your boundaries. Respond politely but firmly. Thank you for the gesture, but this doesn't address the issue we need to resolve. By acknowledging their effort without letting it distract you, you send a clear message. You value authenticity over theatrics. Remember, love bombing is a storm meant to wash away your clarity. But storms always pass, and the truth remains. Stand firm in your convictions, and let their temporary charms fade while you hold onto your long-term perspective. True respect is earned, not bought with fleeting acts of kindness. Number 6. The shield of blame. Shifting blame. When the cracks in their carefully constructed facade start to show, some people will grab the nearest shield to deflect accountability, and that shield is blame. They twist the narrative, redirecting fault onto you or anyone else within arm's reach. Responsibility? Not their style. It's easier to say, I only did this because you made me. Or, if it weren't for, insert scapegoat here, this wouldn't have happened. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a roommate who never cleans up after themselves. One day, you finally bring it up, calmly asking them to share the workload. Instead of owning up, they fire back with, well, maybe if you weren't so obsessed with everything being spotless, I'd feel more motivated to help. Suddenly, you're questioning if you're the problem. Am I too demanding? Did I handle this wrong? That's their goal. To spin the situation until they're the misunderstood victim, and you're left holding the guilt. Or picture this. A friend cancels plans last minute for the 3rd time in a row. When you tell them how it makes you feel, they hit you with, I wouldn't have canceled if you weren't so busy all the time. It's hard to find a day that works for you. Somehow, their repeated flakiness is now your fault. Blame shifting is a tactic as old as time, and it's particularly effective because it preys on empathy. Good people tend to self-reflect when criticized, which is exactly what blame shifters rely on. If they can make you doubt yourself, they can dodge accountability entirely. But here's the truth. Their actions are their responsibility, no matter how convincingly they point the finger elsewhere. As Stoics reminds us, to blame others for your misfortunes is ignorance. To blame yourself is the beginning of wisdom. To blame neither is true understanding. So how do you handle it? First, recognize the tactic for what it is, a diversion. When someone says, I only did this because you made me, don't take the bait. Respond calmly but firmly. No, my actions don't justify yours. This is your responsibility. Keep the focus where it belongs, on their behavior. Second, resist the urge to explain or defend yourself. Blame shifters thrive on pulling you into a debate about your flaws instead of addressing your own. Instead, stand your ground. This isn't about me right now. Let's talk about what happened. Remember, shifting blame is their way of avoiding growth. But when you refuse to accept responsibility for their choices, you leave them with no escape. Let their shield fall, because when the truth is clear, no amount of finger pointing can obscure it. Number 7. Walking the line. Testing your boundaries. When someone realizes you're starting to see through their manipulations, they won't immediately give up. Instead, they'll test your limits, gently, subtly, like dipping a toe into a pool to see how far they can go. It's their way of determining whether you're serious about the boundaries you set, or if they can push you back into compliance. Imagine this. You've told a friend that you won't tolerate them interrupting you mid-conversation anymore because it makes you feel unheard. A week later, during a group dinner, they casually cut you off mid-sentence, laughing. Oops, there I go again. It seems harmless, but make no mistake, it's a test. Will you let it slide, or will you hold them accountable? Or consider this. At work, you set a firm boundary with a colleague who's been piling their tasks onto your plate. You've made it clear you won't be taking on extra work anymore. A few days later, they drop a small, seemingly insignificant request on your desk. It's just this one little thing, they say with a smile. But deep down, you know it's not about the task. It's about seeing whether you'll stick to your word. Testing boundaries often feels subtle, even harmless. But make no mistake, it's calculated. If they can sneak past one small limit, it's only a matter of time before they push harder. It's like a thief jiggling a locked door. If it opens, they'll walk right in. So how do you handle it? First, recognize these moments for what they are: tests. They're not accidents or coincidences. When someone repeatedly bumps against your boundaries, even in small ways, it's intentional. They're looking for weakness. Second, respond immediately. As Epictet is taught, what is proper is to immediately and firmly rebuke improper behavior. Letting small infractions slide sends a message that your boundaries are negotiable. So when your friend interrupts again, calmly but firmly say, "I've asked you not to interrupt me. Please let me finish." Or when your colleague drops another task on your desk, respond with, "I appreciate you thinking of me, but I've made it clear that I can't take on extra work right now." Lastly, stay consistent. People who test boundaries are banking on inconsistency. They're hoping that you'll enforce your limits one day, but let them slide the next. The key to maintaining respect is showing that your boundaries are non-negotiable, every time. Remember, boundaries aren't just lines in the sand. They're the foundations of healthy relationships and self-respect. By standing firm, you're not just protecting your time and energy, you're teaching others how to treat you. So let them walk the line if they must, but don't let them cross it. Number 8. The mirror of guilt. Projection. When the truth threatens their carefully curated image, some people grab a mirror, not to reflect on themselves, but to turn it on you. Projection is their weapon, a twisted game where they offload their bad behavior onto you, making you the villain in their story. It's manipulative, infuriating, and, at times, downright absurd. Picture this. A coworker who constantly undermines you in meetings accuses you of trying to sabotage their reputation. "You're always making me look bad in front of the boss," they say, with a straight face, as if the gaslighting wasn't enough. Or imagine confronting a partner about their dishonesty, only to hear, "You're the one lying to me all the time." Suddenly, you're not sure whether to laugh or scream. Projection is a classic defensive move. By accusing you of their faults, they shift the focus away from themselves, creating a smokescreen of chaos. It's a way to keep you on the defensive, while they avoid accountability. After all, it's much easier to point fingers than to take a hard look in the mirror. But here's the thing. The more dramatic their accusations, the more they reveal about themselves. As the Stoics taught, what we say about others says more about us. Their projection isn't a reflection of your flaws. It's a loud, glaring spotlight on their insecurities. So how do you counter this tactic? First, resist the urge to argue. Projection thrives on drama. If you try to defend yourself, they'll just escalate, twisting your words to further their narrative. Instead, stay calm and focus on the facts. If they accuse you of manipulation, respond with something like, "I'm not here to play games. Let's stick to the issue at hand." Second, call out the behavior, not emotionally, but objectively. For example, "I find it interesting that you're accusing me of manipulation when that's exactly what I've been noticing in your actions. Let's talk about that." By calmly naming the tactic, you disrupt their strategy and shift the conversation back to reality. Finally, don't internalize their accusations. Remember, projection is their way of coping with their flaws. It's not about you. It's about their inability to face themselves. Stay rooted in your values. As Marcus Aurelius advised, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Projection is like a warped funhouse mirror. It can distort your view if you're not careful, but it doesn't change who you are. Stand firm in your truth and let their reflection speak volumes about their character, not yours. Number 9. Walking in the shadows. Total withdrawal. When all else fails, when manipulation, guilt-tripping, and intimidation lose their grip, some people will vanish into the shadows. It's not an act of surrender, but a calculated move, designed to leave you questioning yourself. Total withdrawal isn't silence. It's a weapon, wielded to make you feel abandoned, powerless, and desperate to regain connection. Imagine this. You've confronted someone about their repeated lies, and instead of addressing the issue, they disappear. Your messages go unanswered, and your calls are ignored. In group settings, they avoid eye contact, skirting past you like a ghost. Suddenly, the air is heavy with absence, and you're left wondering, did I push too hard? Was I wrong to speak up? Or think about a romantic partner who vanishes after being held accountable. One moment, they're flooding your inbox with messages. The next, it's radio silence. No explanations, no closure, just a void that echoes louder than any argument could. It's a move calculated to make you feel like the aggressor and then the victim. Withdrawal is the ultimate tactic for regaining control without confrontation. By removing themselves, they force you to carry the emotional weight of the situation. It's a game of psychological chess, where silence becomes the loudest statement of all. So, how do you respond to someone who retreats into the shadows? First and foremost, do not chase them. As tempting as it is to demand answers or closure, pursuing them only gives them the power they crave. Instead, embrace the Stoic wisdom of detachment. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Focus on what you can control, your reaction. Use this time to rebuild yourself. Pour your energy into growth, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Their absence is not a void. It's an opportunity to realign with your priorities. Second, refuse to internalize their withdrawal. It's not a reflection of your worth or your actions. They cannot face the truth or handle accountability. Remember, a strong person doesn't vanish when the stakes are high. They stand firm. Lastly, let their silence speak for itself. Over time, others will notice their behavior, and the truth will rise to the surface. You don't need to fight their retreat with words or actions. Your consistency and strength will tell the story. Walking in the shadows may feel like control to them, but to you, it can become liberation. Don't let their absence pull you down. Instead, let it fuel your rise, because in the end, the person who stands in the light always holds the power. Conclusion. When you uncover the true nature of someone manipulative or malicious, their response is rarely passive. They cling to their mask, deploying every tactic in their arsenal, whether it's gaslighting, playing the victim, or retreating into silence. These behaviors aren't a reflection of your actions, but of their desperation to maintain control. And here's the ultimate truth. Once you see through the illusion, their power begins to fade. The strategies we've explored today, 9 calculated moves designed to protect their image, are not just patterns to recognize, but warnings to heed. They're a reminder that your awareness is a threat to them. But this is where the Stoic mindset becomes your greatest ally. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. The moment you reclaim your narrative, their manipulations lose their grip. So what can you do? First, stay grounded in the truth. When someone tries to gaslight you, shift blame, or intimidate you, don't let their noise distract you from what you know is real. Their tactics are designed to provoke doubt, but your clarity is your defense. Hold on to it like an anchor in a storm. Second, act with integrity. When they smear your reputation or attempt to test your boundaries, resist the urge to retaliate in kind. Instead, rise above. Your actions, consistent and honorable, will speak louder than their schemes ever could. As Epictetus is taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Let their manipulations define them, not you. And finally, remember that you are not alone. Everyone has encountered toxic behavior at some point. By sharing your story and your strategies for overcoming it, you empower others to do the same. So ask yourself, which of these 9 tactics have you faced? How did you rise above it? Share your experience, because your journey could be someone else's lifeline. If today's insights resonated with you, don't keep them to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video to help expand the Victory Stoic community. Together, we could arm more people with the wisdom to navigate life's challenges with strength and clarity. As we part, let me leave you with this. The truth is your most powerful weapon. When you stand in your integrity, no amount of manipulation can tarnish your worth. Live boldly, hold your ground, and let your unwavering confidence illuminate the path forward. In the end, the victory is not just in surviving their tactics, it's in thriving beyond them.